Beneath the surface of our world's history lies a tale of a place both magnificent and doomed. A city that flourished in beauty and power before vanishing without a trace. This is the story of Atlantis, the island nation said to have been lost to the sea more than 9,000 years before the time of Plato. The earliest mention of Atlantis comes not from mythic folklore, but from the writings of one man, the philosopher Plato, in the 4th century BCE. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, Plato describes Atlantis not as a legend, but as a historical account. He claims the story was passed down to him through his ancestor Solon, a respected Athenian statesman who had heard it from Egyptian priests during his travels. Plato sets the event at a time 9,000 years before Solon, placing the fall of Atlantis deep into prehistory. It was, he wrote, a powerful island empire, larger than Libya and Asia combined, situated beyond the Pillars of Heracles, the straits we know today as Gibraltar. In Plato's telling, Atlantis was not merely an island. It was the heart of a sprawling empire that reached into parts of Europe and Africa. Its capital city was a marvel of engineering, built in concentric rings of land and water. Bridges connected each ring, canals brought the sea deep into the city, and the outermost ring was protected by massive walls plated with precious metals, brass, tin, and orichalcum, a mysterious alloy said to gleam like fire. At the city's center stood a grand temple to Poseidon, the god said to have founded Atlantis. Within, a statue of the god in a chariot drawn by winged horses towered over the altars, its size and craftsmanship unmatched by anything known in the ancient world. Plato's description paints a picture of a society advanced in architecture, navigation, and governance. The Atlanteans, he wrote, were prosperous, disciplined, and rich in natural resources, with fertile lands, exotic animals, and precious metals at their disposal. But with prosperity came pride, and with pride, corruption. Plato's narrative shifts from admiration to caution. Over generations, the Atlanteans, once virtuous and just, became greedy, power-hungry, and arrogant. They turned their ambitions outward, seeking to conquer the Mediterranean. It was this aggression, Plato says, that brought them into conflict with the ancient Athenians. In his account, stood alone against the might of Atlantis and prevailed. What followed was a cataclysm. Violent earthquakes and floods struck in a single day and night of misfortune. The island of Atlantis and its people were swallowed by the sea and vanished. Modern scholars often debate whether Plato intended Atlantis to be a literal place or an allegory. To Plato, the rise and fall of Atlantis may have served as a moral lesson, a warning against hubris and the decay of virtue within powerful states. The image of a glittering, advanced civilization destroyed by its own excesses would have resonated deeply with his students, much like the mythical warnings of earlier Greek epics. Still, the level of detail in his account, from measurements of the canals to the number of chariots in the Atlantean army, has left some to wonder if he was preserving fragments of an older, genuine history. In Plato's time, Greece was a center of learning, philosophy, and oral tradition. Stories traveled across the Mediterranean through trade, conquest, and exploration. Egyptian temples preserved records far older than Greece itself, making them a likely source for tales of civilizations long gone. It's worth noting that ancient cultures around the world preserve myths of great floods and sunken lands, from the Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh to legends in India, Southeast Asia, and the Americas. Whether these are echoes of the same event or simply human imagination shaping stories from local disasters remains unknown. Following Plato's time, Atlantis faded from serious discussion for centuries. A few ancient writers, such as Crantor of Soli, defended its historical truth, claiming to have seen Egyptian inscriptions confirming the story. Others dismissed it entirely, treating it as a philosophical parable. It wasn't until the Renaissance, when Europe rediscovered the classical texts, that Atlantis re-emerged in scholarly and popular imagination. Thinkers, explorers, and cartographers began to wonder if the lost island might still be found hidden somewhere beyond the edges of known maps. Was Atlantis merely a cautionary tale from a master philosopher? Or did Plato's words preserve a distant memory of a real, advanced society, one that the earth itself consumed? In the centuries that followed, the search for Atlantis would ignite imaginations, fuel expeditions, and lead explorers to the farthest reaches of the globe. Centuries passed, yet the shadow of Atlantis never faded. For some, it remained a fable. For others, an unfinished chapter in human history waiting to be uncovered. The renewed fascination with Atlantis truly began in the age of exploration. As Europeans crossed oceans and mapped distant lands, the idea of a lost continent seemed more plausible than ever. In the 16th and 17th centuries, Spanish explorers in the Americas speculated that the ruins of ancient civilizations, like the temples of the Maya and the Inca, might be remnants of Atlantis. Their towering stone cities, advanced agriculture, and mysterious origins fit neatly into a narrative that linked a new world with Plato's vanished island. By the 19th century, with archaeology emerging as a scientific discipline, Atlantis, hunters began using new tools and methods to search for physical evidence. Expeditions combed the coasts of the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, and the Atlantic Ocean, each hoping to find the first undeniable proof. Over the years, dozens of potential sites for Atlantis have been proposed. Each comes with its own set of evidence and its own controversies. Some scholars argue that Atlantis was not in the open Atlantic at all, but somewhere within the Mediterranean. The island of Santorini, ancient Thera, is one of the most compelling candidates. Around 1600 BCE, a massive volcanic eruption devastated the island, sending tsunamis across the Aegean and collapsing much of the Minoan civilization on nearby Crete. The scale of destruction mirrors Plato's description of sudden catastrophe. Though the geography doesn't perfectly match, others hold to the idea that Atlantis lay far beyond the Pillars of Heracles. The Azores, a volcanic archipelago in the mid-Atlantic, have been suggested as the peaks of a sunken landmass. Similarly, the Canary Islands have drawn attention for their ancient legends and unusual stone structures. In the early 20th century, American psychic Edgar Cayce popularized the notion that Atlantis lay somewhere in the Caribbean, particularly around the Bahamas. The discovery of the so-called Bimini Road, a formation of large stones off Bimini Island, has fueled speculation. Though geological studies suggest a natural origin, some theories push Atlantis even farther afield, from Antarctica's ice-covered coastline to the marshes of southern Spain. Each site presents intriguing clues, but none has yielded the kind of conclusive archaeological evidence that could silence the debate. Modern science has brought new tools to the search for Atlantis and new perspectives on what it might have been. Earth's crust is in constant motion. Theories involving plate tectonics, rising seas, and catastrophic volcanic events suggest that whole islands could disappear over centuries. Ancient tsunamis, triggered by earthquakes or eruptions, may have inspired flood legends across cultures. Underwater archaeology has mapped ancient coastlines, uncovering submerged settlements in the Black Sea, the Mediterranean, and off the coasts of India and Japan. While none match Plato's Atlantis exactly, they prove that advanced societies once thrived in places now under the sea. Some researchers believe Atlantis may be a cultural memory, a blend of real historical events woven into myth over generations. The destruction of Santorini, the decline of the Minoans, and the memory of great floods may have merged into a single, enduring story. Mainstream historians generally view Atlantis as an allegory. The absence of definitive archaeological evidence, artifacts, inscriptions, or ruins matching Plato's detailed account makes it difficult to treat as a literal history. Critics argue that many proposed discoveries of Atlantis are examples of confirmation bias, the tendency to interpret ambiguous evidence in a way that fits a pre-existing belief. Natural rock formations can be mistaken for walls. Local legends can be adapted to match Plato's narrative. Yet, despite these cautions, the allure remains. Part of Atlantis' power lies in the possibility that the truth may still be waiting in the silt of the ocean floor. or in records yet to be found. Beyond the academic debate, Atlantis has taken on a life of its own in popular culture. Writers, filmmakers, and artists have reimagined it in countless forms as a utopia of peace and wisdom, a warning of human hubris, or a fantastical realm of advanced technology. From Jules Verne's 19th century adventure novels to modern documentaries and fictional universes, Atlantis serves as a canvas for our hopes and fears about lost knowledge, human potential, and the fragility of civilization. Even in pseudoscience and speculative theories, Atlantis often becomes a catch-all explanation for unexplained artifacts, engineering feats, and cross-cultural similarities in myth. In recent decades, technology has brought us closer than ever to exploring the deep. High-resolution satellite imagery can reveal ancient shorelines. Sonar scanning maps the ocean floor in 3 dimensions. Remotely operated underwater vehicles probe depths once unreachable by divers. Several expeditions have scanned candidate sites in the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, and the Atlantic. While no definitive city has been found, these efforts have uncovered new archaeological puzzles, submerged harbors, ancient shipwrecks, and lost coastlines. The search for Atlantis has also expanded beyond archaeology into the realm of interdisciplinary study, combining geology, oceanography, mythology, and cultural anthropology to better understand how such a legend could endure for over 2 millennia. Perhaps Atlantis was never meant to be found. Or perhaps it has been there all along, hidden in plain sight. Its story scattered in fragments across the world's oceans and ancient ruins. Whether a true city or a cautionary vision, Atlantis endures, not just as a mystery of the past, but as a mirror for humanity, reflecting both our greatness and our fragility.